Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is The Surge Effect, and I'm your host, Mike Surge. This podcast will be talking about anything and everything, life in general to current events and past events, and all things about this beautiful and wonderful world that we live in. And this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Surge Effect. Today's episode of The Surge Effect, we are going to be talking about Donald Trump, of course, and who he has picked for some key positions in his up-and-coming new administration. Before we get started, I always like to throw in a couple items. First item is going to be my BCAAs. You click on the BCAA link below, head on over to Amazon and grab your BCAAs. It's branched-chain amino acids, and they are great for hydration. And I use them all the time. They're great. And number two, from Amazon, I always throw in using my Rodecaster Pro 2, and it's my soundboard. Head on over to Amazon, check out what they have to offer there for those. Different price range and stuff, but if you're getting into vlogging or podcasting, they're fantastic. I also like to throw in two sponsors. My number one sponsor is Love My Legs Owen Sound Grey Bruce. Click on the link below. Head on over to their website and see what they have to offer on their Facebook page. They have all different types of ladies leggings. Number two is He Shirts, She Shirts Plus. He Shirts, She Shirts Plus. We offer all different types of clothing, as well as laser products, stuff that can be lasered. So you can click on one or two of their links below for their webpage, which is under maintenance right now, but it's going to be up and running real soon. But you can also check out their Facebook page. So click on those links below. So without further ado, let's get started. So what we're going to do here is fire up a couple of videos like I normally do. And, of course, I'm going to fire up this first little picture here. Of course, Trump. This is from the other day from Trump's election. They literally took everything. They took the Senate. They took the House. And, of course, he took the popular vote as well. So he has a clear mandate by the American people, the Electoral College, as well as the popular vote. So that's pretty outstanding. First time this has happened since Reagan, and Reagan was back 40 years, a little over 40 years ago for Reagan. So that is pretty impressive indeed. So I'm going to show you Trump being a little bit defiant, of course, all the stuff that they've done to Trump. And he just still keeps on ticking, and the guy's really been through the ringer. He's had a lot of shit thrown at him, but here's just a little video here.
Think about all they've done to Donald Trump. First, it was hoaxes, witch hunts, and impeachments. Then it was FBI raids, courtrooms, and mugshots. Finally, it was bullets in a Pennsylvania field. And after all that, this man stood up with blood draining down his face, pumped his fists in the air, and told us to fight. Fight. Fight.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And we will make America great again.
We know what.
And even after all of that, it's such a divided situation down in the States. There's people that like him, people that hate him. But here's a video here I'm going to show you of people just going off on Trump, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild, but they're hating on him pretty bad. But here we go.
Tell me a bit about Trump's agenda, and what about it is most scary, most concerning to you?
He says that he's going to take anybody who disagrees with him and put them in jail. And from there, he's going to deport them out of the United States altogether.
And I think he wants to basically turn this into a white Christian nation, which it is not.
He hates everyone. He hates his followers, and he will totally try to destroy all no life on earth before he dies. That's who the Trump is.
Do you think that the rhetoric of him being a Nazi or a fascist might encourage other people who are going to try and take him out, violently?
I mean, I don't know if that's the leap I would make. I think it is a totally reasonable assumption. I mean, Elon Musk is wearing a Make America Great hat in the Nazi font. That was definitely the vibe there. It was frightening and disgusting.
He is. He's a damn Nazi. He's a fascist. Of course he is.
Yes, I think he's a full fascist authoritarian.
What I will say to you is if he wins in November, it is going to be the birth of the American Nazi Party with him as the top of it.
What do you think America looks like if Trump wins? I mean, we've been hearing that he's a fascist or that he's a Nazi. Do you agree with those characterizations of him?
Yeah, he's the most repulsive person in public life.
So this goes on for another couple of minutes, so I'm just going to cut that short right there. But gives you an idea what some of the people, what they feel about him, how they feel about Trump, and they don't call him a fascist and a Nazi and all this other stuff. But here is, I played this the other day on my podcast, but this is, once again, Scott Jennings. He's literally on CNN. This is when Trump won because of electoral votes and stuff. They knew it was coming on the map. This is what Scott Jennings, a senior political commentator, had to say to the CNN panel.
This is a mandate. He's won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican, for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Well, it sounds familiar. It's kind of like Canada, right? You could almost put Canada in the place of basically everything he just said, because it just resonates so much with Canada and the U.S., what is going on down there. So I'm going to play you a clip here. This is of, once again, this is Trump, because I said we're going to do some stuff on Trump and his nominee picks for some of his cabinet positions. But this is Trump and some of the things that he's going to do. So I'm going to zip through some of these. This is what he's going to do with education, energy, illegal immigration, gender-affirming care, human child trafficking, and lethal drugs that are coming into America over the border, just pouring into America. So I'm going to play a little bit of each one. So I'm going to skip ahead of each one because this is a fairly long video. It's about 21 minutes I put together, but I'm going to condense it down here, hopefully just to a couple of minutes of all these different issues. Okay, here we go.
President, it was my honor to support America's homeschool families and to protect the God-given right of every parent to be the steward of their children's education. Since the China virus, America has seen an estimated 30% increase in homeschool enrollment. When I am reelected, I will do everything I can to support parents who make the courageous choice of homeschool. Under the Trump tax cuts, we allowed families to use 529 education savings accounts to spend up to $10,000 a year tax-free on tuition for grades K through 12. This was a tremendous win for school choice, very important, school choice, remember that term. And yet that benefit did not apply to homeschoolers. So to support the growing homeschool movement, in my next term, I will immediately fight to allow homeschool parents the same incredible benefit, $10,000 a year per child, completely tax-free to spend on costs associated with homeschool education.
So there you go.
I will also work to ensure that to dominate the world in manufacturing once again, as it did when I was running things. You remember when they used to say you can't have manufacturing jobs in our country anymore? I said, really, why? And we created hundreds of thousands of them. But we must be the most affordable energy and electricity place anywhere on the planet. We have to have affordable energy. Right now we have energy that's weak, substandard, and unaffordable. It's made by the wind. The windmills rust, they rot, they kill the birds. It's the most expensive energy there is. And we have other things that are also no good. It's called the Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Hoax. One of the reasons manufacturing jobs were flooding back into the United States when I was president was that we dramatically reduced energy costs. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden sacrificed this tremendous economic advantage on the altar of the Green New Deal, perhaps because he was bribed by Communist China or because Communist China knows all of the money that they've paid him. We have a Manchurian candidate. That's what he is. He's a Manchurian candidate. They know everything about him, and he's scared stiff.
Right,
he won't do a thing.
It's going to be illegal immigration.
We have to make America great again, and we can't do it with a man who's severely... Joe Biden is running a nonstop conveyor belt, importing illegal aliens from all over the world into our country, and the Biden Department of Homeland Security is abusing its so-called parole authority to give them more governmental benefits than many law-abiding citizens, including our vets. Our vets are being taken advantage of. Our citizens are being taken advantage of. It's very unfair, and it's not going to stand. Under this horrendous abuse of power, millions of illegals will be eligible for billions and billions of dollars in welfare benefits, courtesy of you, the American taxpayer. So not only is Crooked Joe surrendering your borders and your sovereignty, he is stealing your hard-earned money to redistribute it to people who have no business being in our country. They should be in their country. This is
all right,
not
next
sustainable
is gender affirming care.
We're not going to let it happen. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures.
All right,
and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation to host a screening at Bedminster of the important new film, Sound of Freedom, about the power of faith in overcoming evil, and in particular, the evil of child trafficking. Big problem. We had it down to the lowest number in many years just 4 years ago, and now it's gone through the roof. Even though the fake news media has tried to ignore it, Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office, really big numbers. Everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and it's a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about an issue that has to be discussed. Under my leadership, we did more than any administration in history to combat human trafficking and to end modern-day slavery.
So there's
in one of my first acts in office, I signed an executive order targeting transnational criminal organizations that traffic and exploit innocent, allowing the cartels to preserve their brutal reign, and it is indeed brutal. Finally, as I have said before, I will ask Congress to pass legislation ensuring that drug smugglers and human traffickers receive the death penalty. The drug cartels and their allies in the Biden administration have the blood of countless millions on their hands. Millions and millions of families and people are being destroyed. When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago. It was strong, it was powerful, and it was respected all over the world.
So there you go. That's some of the clips that Donald Trump put out just before the election. Now, think back to the video I just played of the people, basically slagging on him, saying he's Hitler and he's a fascist and all this other stuff. He just laid out just a few of his things that he was going to do when he was going to be elected, and now he is elected. He talked about, like, a little recap here on the education, homeschooling, energy, being energy efficient again, because they were, when he was president the first time in the history of that country, they were energy efficient all by themselves. They were energy independent, so they say. Illegal immigration, of the illegal immigrants using the benefits of the United States of America and what they're paying them. Gender affirming care, of course. Children being able to do stuff without the consent of their parents. He's going to be putting a stop to that. Human child trafficking, which is insane, considering that over 300,000 children have disappeared that have come into America across their borders. Just disappeared. 300,000 of them. Where did they go, right? Questions that should be asked. And lethal drugs coming into America. Now, he's going to be looking after all this stuff when he gets into power. And all of a sudden now it's like, he's a bad guy. They're saying he's this bad, horrific, fascist, Hitler-type person. It doesn't quite make any sense to me. It just doesn't. But this is what happens, right? People just keep telling the same thing over and over again, the same little story, this narrative that they tell themselves, right? Anyway, so here's the people that so far that Trump has picked that he's going to be putting in cabinet positions. And here's some of them here. I'll just say their names as I play this. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. Of course, he's a Fox News reporter now, but he's a veteran. John Ratcliffe, CIA Director, is who he's picked. Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. Right now, she's the government, I believe, of South Dakota. Mike Huckabee, Ambassador to Israel. Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor. Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff, first woman ever in the history of the country. Tom Homan, Border Czar. Elisa Stefanik, United Nations Ambassador. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. And Lee Zeldin, Environmental Protection Agency. And he also has Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for the Department of Government Efficiencies. Try to get things sorted down there with efficiencies, right? So it's a pretty good cabinet as far as I'm concerned, what he's thrown together. And in case you're wondering who some of these people are, Pete Hegseth. Here's just a little clip I put together of Pete. Give you an idea of who Pete is, what he's all about. This is actually Pete 14 years ago, talking at a confirmation hearing for a testifying against Kagan. So here we go.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's a privilege to take part in these proceedings. My name is Pete Hegseth. I'm the Executive Director of Vets for Freedom, an organization of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans dedicated to supporting our warfighters and their mission on the battlefield. I received my commission from Princeton University in 2003 and have since served 2 tours of the United States Army, the first in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and second in Iraq with the 101st Airborne Division. Currently infantry captain, as the chairman said, with the Massachusetts Army National Guard, and a graduate student at Harvard University. I'm at this committee today as a citizen and a veteran and do not purport to speak at all on behalf of the military. But I'm going to start with the bottom line up front, as we do in the Army. We're a nation at war with a vicious enemy on multiple fronts. I've seen this enemy firsthand, as have precious few from my generation. The enemy we face detests and seeks to destroy our way of life, while completely ignoring and exploiting, for that matter, the rule of law. This context motivates my testimony today. I've got serious concerns about Elena Kagan's actions toward the military and her willingness to myopically focus on preventing the military from having institutional and equal access to top-notch recruits at a time of war.
I'm thrilled about it. Look, Donald Trump is picking the best people he can possibly pick. Pete loves this country. He has served this country. He's a true patriot. And his heart is always in the right place. And he will serve with vigor. He wants to protect this country. He knows the issues. I mean, you've got to love somebody who put it all on the line, put the uniform on, got out there, has loved our veterans, worked tirelessly, behind the scenes to help veterans, protect veterans, take care of homeless veterans, and honor those who have given their life. You could ask for nothing more.
So that's Pete Hegseth, of course. Next one is going to be Tom Holman. Holman, if you've never seen Tom or heard of Tom, here's just another little couple-minute clip I've put together about Tom.
Thank you. How you doing? My home state, New York. Where's New York at? Give me a shout. Damn right. Look, for those who don't know me, my name is Tom Holman. I began my career as a Border Patrol agent in 1984. After 34 years, I became the first Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that actually came up through the ranks. I've worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I've worked for said they're going to secure the border. President Trump actually did it. He created the most secure border in our history, and that's a stone cold fact. The data proves it, and guess what? He's going to do it again.
Thank you for saying that. I wish somebody in Democratic leadership would say that out loud. Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Holman, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Holman. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Holman, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one witness, one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority. I
respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Holman!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
You are the author of the family separation policy.
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family.
Mr. Holman, with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Isn't that something? Tom Homan. Amazing. This is Michael Waltz. It's another pick. He's for the National Security Advisor.
I am so honored. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Patriots. I am so honored to stand before you as a 27-year Army veteran and the first Green Beret ever elected to Congress. And I'm joined tonight by my beautiful wife, Julia, who, oh, by the way, has more combat tours than I do. Look, folks, we have deployed all over the Middle East, all over Africa, all over Afghanistan, and I have never in my lifetime seen the world falling apart like it is under Joe Biden. And that's because under President Trump, we had a president who defeated ISIS, broke Iran, stood with Israel, always stood with our allies, made China pay. You didn't see any spy balloons under President Trump, did you? He deterred Russia. You know what he told Putin? You try anything, and I'll take the tops off the Kremlin. And he didn't dare, did he? He did under Obama, he did under Biden, but not under Donald J. Trump. He diffused North Korea. And importantly, he got our hostages home and didn't pay billions of dollars to get our Americans back. And here's what I can tell you straight up in combat. Our enemy's bullets, listen to me folks, our enemy's bullets could give a damn about black, white, or brown, or about religion, or about gender, or about anything else. The only colors that matter in the foxhole are the red, white, and blue, baby. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing our military should care about. And that's the only thing our fellow soldiers care about. And that's the only thing President Trump cares about.
So there you go. There's just three of the many. I could go on and on, but it'd be forever. But there's just a couple of quick little videos I put together with Pete Hegseth and Tom Homan and Michael Waltz. And I'm sure you'll hear about a lot of the other ones in the up and coming days in regards to different things. So we're going to just change gears here a little bit. And to finish off the podcast, people talked about the 2020 elections and the numbers, and everyone said, well, there's no proof and that there was any election shenanigans and stuff going on. But a lot of people probably haven't found or even seen this graph. So this graph I'm going to show you. So here's a graph of the United States presidential popular vote, Democrat versus Republicans in the millions, okay? So here's 2022 is the very first one. You'll see it there. 2016, and then, of course, 2020, and then 2024 that just happened. There's about like 14 or 15 million votes in this right here. See that? Democrats who never voted. When you think about it, they never voted in this election here, and then in this one here. But in 2020, where did those 15 million people? Where are they? See? Questions? Well, I'm not the only one that's kind of looked at that and kind of that's kind of strange. It's kind of weird because Joe Rogan actually did the same thing on his show the other day. Did the exact same thing, and he asked the same question. And here's what Joe Rogan and actually his guest Dave had to say.
What do you think about that thing I sent you today that compares the number of people that voted in 2020 versus the number of people that voted in 2024 and in 2016?
Sure does look strange.
And in 2012. Have you seen it, Jamie?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I would say
I can send it to you if you want to see the exact chart.
Counting votes.
That is a fair point. There are still votes out there. I'd like to take a look at that again after 100% of everybody has been reported, but it does certainly seem weird.
Let's not get technical and let's just enjoy it. I'm going to send you this, Jay, because it's so bizarre that I can't really believe it's real. When did I send it to you? Earlier today? Hang on a second, I'll find it. It's so crazy. You look at it and you go, is this real? Oh, here it is. Because it doesn't seem to make any sense, because this is like one of the most consequential elections ever. I think everybody's pretty aware of that, and everybody is very dug in on their side. The left, he's Hitler. The right, he's saving us. And so more people voted, at least the indication would be as much people voted in 2020, if not more, probably more people voted. But let's look at the numbers. Like, look at the difference in how many people voted for Biden in 2020. It's unprecedented. It's way higher than any other time since 2012, and I'm sure probably before that there was less people back then, right? So if you go back to when I was a kid, there was only like 200 million people in this country.
Yeah, and to be clear, 2012 and 2016 were not low turnout years.
No, they're all consistent. Yeah. This is what's crazy. They're consistent. Look, they're all like 60. Look at where the number is. It's all like 65 million. Is that what it says? So that's all the same every fucking time except 2020. In 2020, it goes way the fuck up. Look at it. It's like 80 what? Is it 82? Is that what it was?
It's like 81 and change.
81. Yeah. So it goes up a fucking sizable chunk, and only once.
And it does seem like even with getting all the other votes in, you're not going to get to that.
But it's also like, look how many votes Trump got. He got even more in 2020 than he did in 2024. Like, what the hell's that about? Is that because they haven't counted all the votes yet when they made this? Or is that the reality of the...
The reality, see, is the graphs and the numbers. So you can decipher anything you want out of that situation, but that's the facts and that's the numbers that have come in. So say what you will. All right, so I'm going to change gears again, and this is a post the other day by MP Ryan Turnbull. He posted this on Twitter. He says, I attended the Remembrance Day ceremony in Whitby, and the chaplain led us in multiple prayers. People know Pierre Poilievre lies, and he knowingly does so regularly, but the lie and politicized Remembrance Day is beyond shameful. It's disgraceful and dishonorable. Grow up. Because Pierre Poilievre says, contrary to what liberals claim, chaplains are banned from prayers at Remembrance Day ceremonies, and Canadians should be free to practice their faith alongside fellow Canadians as we commemorate those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. So, in regards to this MP Ryan Turnbull, I was at our Remembrance Day parade and ceremonies in our hometown where I live, and I'm here to tell you that there was no prayer. None. And I've been going to these my whole life. So he can say what he wants. He can spin any yard he wants, that Turnbull. He can spin any yarn he wants. But I'm telling you right now, there was no prayer at our cenotaph in my hometown. Fact. So anyone that listens to this podcast and knows me and has been down to the cenotaph the other day, you'll know it's to be true. That is a fact. So speaking, let's stay on the same thread about remembrance. Here's a little tweet here. This person here, Ryan Gerritsen, said she should have a lifetime ban from speaking at any school. This person here is York University of UTM lecturer shouts, "Fuck you" to veterans on Remembrance Day. This was posted November the 12th. Somebody put that on Twitter feed. That's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Disgusts me. So here is another tweet, of course, from Justin Trudeau's, right from his, November the 11th. He's so grateful for the men and women who gave everything for our freedom. So I'm going to close this podcast off today with a little something that I like to show and share on my Twitter feeds, because every time I hear something like that coming from Trudeau about how much he loves the veterans and how much he's there for Canadians and he has our backs. He didn't have our backs during the Ottawa truckers because when he invoked the Emergency Act along with his cabinet members, this is what they did to our Canadians, fellow Canadians, brothers and sisters, and veterans. You'll see it on this video over and over again. And this is one reason I will never, ever vote for a Liberal again, ever in my lifetime. Veteran on the floor. Keep in mind, folks, this was a peaceful demonstration. Already dropped down from the courts talking about being a peaceful demonstration, and it was actually illegal for Trudeau and his MP cabinet to invoke that Emergency Act. That's a fact. So anyway, with that being said, hope that makes up your mind and maybe in future elections in regards to who you're going to be voting for, because I know who I'm going to be voting for. I think that's disgusting, talking about veterans and all that, saying that he's there for them as well, and thank you for our freedom. Anyway, food for thought. I'm just going to wrap up this podcast today, everyone. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the podcast. Thank you very much for checking into the Surge Effect. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, share to as many people as you can, because it helps with the algorithm in YouTube. YouTube's a funky social media platform because they have their own way of looking at stuff, and sometimes they like to shadow ban certain channels. But anyway, with that being said, listen, I always like to sign off my podcasts with the following. Life is tough. No one said it was going to be easy. And everyone goes through something and is going through something right now. Everyone. But I want you to do one thing. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. You'll be better off for it. With that being said, until next podcast, everyone, have yourself a great day. Cheers. This episode sponsored by He Shirts, She Shirts. Go to www.heshirtsseshirts.ca. Just type in the letters TSA, The Surge Effect. When you check out, type in TSA for your coupon and receive 10% off your next purchase. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, everybody.